I had a therapist for many years in New York City when I was in high school in the 90s, 80s, 90s. And I I don't think that just the talk therapy was really um had any effect. I mean it was, I mean it was useful, it got me through, but I experienced, like many of us, quite a challenging childhood, I would say, with very unstable. My father was an addict. My mother was just emotionally very unstable and rageful and suicidal. And I grew up with that, not having any awareness of it as I was going through it, other than my way of surviving was closing within myself. And, um, you know, I began with eating disorder when I was 12 onwards, and then with drugs, alcohol. I dove pretty deep into addiction and never really knowing that there was a possibility to get out. I pretty much had just decided that I wasn't going to do anything with my life in my 30s after I modeled for 10, 15 years. And then I didn't think, I was always told, getting older as a model, that I wouldn't do anything with my life, that it was too late. Um, and then I met Gabor Maté in my living room in 2008. And that was the first time he was coming for a movie, a documentary, that Neurons to Nirvana, that I think you probably were a part of as well, Daniel.
I knew about it. I don't think I was part of it, but yeah.
Yeah, so he was interviewed for it, and he started speaking about trauma. And he was staying over, he was staying at our house, and he was recognizing my behaviors of people pleasing and my anxiety. I was drinking a lot at the time. And I think he was the first person to really look at me and see. I felt like he was really looking at me and questioning, do you know, like, are you okay? Like, are you recognizing your behavior? And what he, yeah, made me question this this quality I had, I guess, of putting others first and forgetting myself, which I had done all of my life. I didn't know that there was really another way. And so that began me on a journey of, number one, getting sober. First, I got off drugs, then off alcohol. I did that through plant medicine. I was already working with ayahuasca since the late 90s. And I also say I have my PhD in spiritual bypassing, because I I spiritually bypassed for 10 years, thinking I was elevating myself, but just numbing myself with alcohol and drugs. I kept on going back to the old ways of being. I'd go on retreats, I'd go deep. And that's when I really understood that real change is the integration work, which I wasn't doing. And that's why I don't believe that psychedelics are for everyone, and that they can also be another type of addiction to bliss states, to like this feeling high, because I was addicted to feeling high. I was addicted to being out of my body. And the real work came when I started doing the inner work. And that was the really uncomfortable part. So going back, that work that I was doing was with Gabor Mate on retreats when he was doing he wasn't leading the medicine retreats in Mexico at the time, but he was present. And the next day he would do this big group circles, which is what's called now compassionate inquiry, which is this process of going into the emotional layers, understanding that in our bodies, this is my interpretation of it, but in our bodies, we hold memories. We repress feelings and emotions. I know through my experience that I was holding a lot in my body, and I could work as much as I wanted with my mind. But until I dropped deeper into the pain of my fear, and my anxiety and my sadness, my everything, my grief, my anger, until I became friends with my emotions. Then I, well, number one, I realized for me that my emotions were my direct connection to spirit, because I was having all of, like, I was in all of these ceremonies and everyone was connecting to God and source, and I wasn't feeling anything. I was just having memories of my past and just so much fear. And I realized, for me anyway, that my connection to my own, to my soul, to my spirit, however you want to call it, was something that unfolded through my willingness to be with my own pain. It wasn't something like just, the sky opened and God appeared. Yes, like for maybe 2 weeks, I would feel God presence, but to integrate it and to hold that presence in my human body when I was out of the ceremonies, and was actually, I mean, for me, that's the real work. That's why I do what I do today. I went to school in New York City in a program of contemplative psychotherapy called, it was, contemplative psychotherapy with Robert Thurman and Dr. Joe Loizzo at Nalanda Institute. That was amazing. And that was where we learned through studying Tibetan Buddhism, this ability to connect to this different energies that existed that I was never really educated in that way, to connect to energy, to different energies of different frequencies and different deities. And that was really beautiful to understand the work, the teachings of the Buddha. But then I kind of moved away a little bit from that, started studying with Gabor, learning the psychotherapy approach of tapping in, questioning the stories, but also understanding what's underlying our stories. And that we have the ability to transform our emotions with our awareness. But awareness is like a muscle, and it's something that we develop with practices and rituals and discipline and commitment. It's not something that you just wish to have. For me anyway, I thought that once I got it, okay, this is good, I got that. But it's a process. I'm in it every day. I'm still in it. It's never ending. It's like, I'm sure all of the people on the call who've experienced awakenings, it's an ongoing process. It's not just like you wake up and then you're awake. It's continually questioning the layers as they reveal themselves. And so that's why I'm a therapist. That's why I love to do what I do, is because I've been through this. I'm in it, and I understand that the presence of another being helped me to understand that I wasn't crazy, that I didn't need to figure it out with my mind, that it was a process of stepping into my heart, and that required a deep, deep, deep letting go of a need to control through my mind. And that's been very humbling and ineffable.